Let's bring Rob Mullens in right now. And, Rob, I don't know that we have a big debate at number one. Some of us think Ohio State has looked like the best team. So let's start with the most controversial pick right now. Clemson, nation's longest winning streak, reigning national champions, only the one close call. What carried the day to give Penn State, and really Penn State and Alabama, the edge over Clemson?
Well, Penn State and Clemson specifically, two outstanding teams, obviously. You guys already referenced the close game against UNC for Clemson. And when you look at Penn State's resume with wins over Michigan and at Iowa, those are marquee wins. Then you look across, Penn State's been very consistent. I think they've held 7 of their 8 opponents to 13 points or less. So again, and Clemson's coming on and playing their best football. But after Week 10, the committee felt that Penn State was a notch above.
So is this all to do with the near miss against North Carolina? How much did that come up in discussions about Clemson?
That's a piece of it. When you're comparing resumes, you know, that you look at every single game, and that was a game. But equally for Penn State, you know, winning against a ranked Penn State and a ranked Iowa were key wins as well.
All right, you got a couple of Power 5 teams that are still unbeaten, ranked 12th and 17th, respectively, Baylor and Minnesota. Is there a ceiling on those two teams in the judgment of the committee should they stay unbeaten because of their schedule up to this point?
Well, I mean, obviously we put them where they were when you look at schedule strength. You know, Baylor played 3 non-conference games, and in those 3 non-conference games, those 3 teams have 4 total wins. And then when you look at Minnesota's resume, the committee had a long discussion about it. Again, a great year, but of their conference opponents, they've only played 1, Illinois, with a winning record. And that's kind of how the committee placed them at 12 and 17.
Okay, among the 6, 7, 8, 9 group, the most questionable loss is clearly the one that Georgia suffered to South Carolina at home. Why are the Bulldogs ranked ahead of those other teams?
Well, like we talked about similarly, obviously they beat 2 top 15 teams in Florida and Notre Dame, which balances the loss to South Carolina in the eyes of the committee.
Hey, Rob, philosophically, you know, I know you're the head of the committee. I also know you're an athletic director. We're always so adamant about, as outsiders, about teams like Oregon and others that are willing to play heavyweights in the non-conference. As you guys sit in that room and talk to each other, how do you feel that that's resonating? Do you feel that the hope that there are ADs and coaches willing to play in these games as opposed to taking that easy route in the non-conference? Do you think that that is being weighed heavily enough in the room?
Well, clearly, when you put the 2 resumes up and you get a chance to see, you know, who everyone's playing, it's a factor because you're discussing every single game, whether they play an FCS opponent, what their non-conference looks like, how their conference is stacking up. So, sure, it's a part of it because, you know, the strength of their opponents is important.
What carried the day for Ohio State against LSU? We were a little, and we've been tracking it, but you look at the strength of schedule and the fact that the Buckeyes' schedule overall looks a little stronger than LSU's, despite the fact that LSU has played Auburn and Florida and Texas, who's not ranked right now. What did the committee think in comparing those two?
Well, 2 outstanding teams. We obviously recognized LSU's marquee wins against Florida and Auburn. 2 outstanding offenses with Joe Burrow and the new offensive coordinator at LSU. But when you watch Ohio State, they have performed at a very consistent level. Really good on both sides of the ball, explosive offensive playmakers. And Chase Young's probably as disruptive a defensive player as there is in the country. And when you look at their resume, they perform at a consistently high level every week.
That's the eye test right there. Number 1 in offensive efficiency, number 2 in defensive efficiency. That is leading the way among those contenders. Rob Mullens, the chair of the College Football Playoff Selection Committee, and also the athletic director at Oregon.